Welcome to the Team Woods Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Fain, and today's guest is an entrepreneur dedicated to helping people through teaching and counseling as president of Keystar Insurance LLC. Let's welcome Mrs. Bonita Starkey to the podcast.
Good morning. This is Scott Fain with the Team Woods Podcast, and I'm very happy to have with me Mrs. Bonita Starkey. How are you doing today, Bonita?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. How about yourself?
I won't complain. You can always complain, but I try not to. I think that's live a better life. I want to thank you, first off, for coming in and joining me on this podcast call. My partner, Matthew, said he met you at his brother's party, and he had nothing but positive things to say. And he's like, we got to get her and speak to her about this insurance and some of the things that, she's doing. And so I said, okay, well, we set it up, and that's how we got on today. Some of the things that he was talking, can you tell me a little bit about, like your guys' first meeting and some of the things that you guys talked about? He had mentioned to me about some of the values that your father taught you and stuff like that he was impressed with.
Mm-hmm. Well, I met him at I think his brother's party on Saturday, as he said, and we talked about business and a lot of the things that are missing in the community as far as business, and that people just don't do anymore, as far as pouring into other people, as far as, especially the younger generation. It used to be that people poured into them and tried to show them the ropes and steered them in a direction. I can't say the right direction, but to the best of their abilities.
Mentorship. Things
exactly.
Like that. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Before the word was, that's correct. That term wasn't even born then, but that was just the way things were done.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree. We talk about that a lot too.
And I had shared with him that my dad owned an insurance. Oh my Lord. My dad owned a construction company when I was younger. He had a lot of younger men that worked with him. And I just really saw how he poured into them and built up their self-esteem. And it really, he's deceased now, but it really makes me misty when I run into those men today, and they're still doing that. And it's quite the legacy, I believe. I'm very proud of him for that, to pour into someone, to teach them how to take care of themselves and their family. That's something that lives on forever.
Now you have Keystar Insurance. That's the logo behind you. What are you doing? What are you doing to pour into others, since you mentioned it?
Well, I haven't quite gotten there yet, but I am prepared to do so. I've been getting my systems together, my products, as far as what my focus is going to be. I've got a pretty good handle on that. So I'd like to, in the next 6 months, the next year, have individuals here and be able to coach and mentor them into doing. I have people come in, intermittently. Over the time when I was really strong with PNC, and we did, events and so forth. There's just a lot of foundation that is missing. There's something to be said about working at McDonald's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's something to be learned there. Yes.
Work is work.
Well, there's customer service. There's, and we're missing a lot of that, and how we should dress. And, that's something that I run into when I am hiring, is individuals don't know how to dress for interviews. They're not certain how they should dress, in an office setting, things like that.
Okay. Now, as far as your journey, what kind of insurance products do you provide?
Well, I started out with Farmers Insurance, which is a captive agency. It's more like a franchise, but there we did home and auto. I pretty much learned the business. I learned the ropes there. We did home, auto, life insurance. I did do commercial. I'm kind of phasing that out. It's not a big business here for me anyway. It's a specialty. I just don't feel that it's where we're led to be. At this time, I'm focusing on financial services and life insurance, as far as helping people to be prepared. We are not prepared. We don't have wills. We don't have estate plans. We don't have basic life insurance policies.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Well, how did you, sorry, excuse me, go ahead.
And a lot of the reason is because we don't know about it. I designed this tutorial. It's called the Amplified Insurance IQ. And I go and I teach this. I've been teaching it here and there at churches and social agencies, and I'm still able to do that if somebody wants to know. Teach about auto, life, and home in this workshop, and teach people what to look for. That's the problem. Is there what I call shopping for prices? How much does it cost? Don't know what they're getting. That's why I designed it in the first place. I put myself in this bunch. We learn about these things when we need them.
Right. Yeah, that's how it is. But I like what you're doing. You put together something, the frequently asked questions, basically, and try and give someone that information up front. So at least when they give that information and then they come and talk to you after they've read it, you have a more educated person you can kind of guide on that path. But
well, the workshops are free. Any organization that wants to just share the information with their group, I'm available and have been doing that for them. So I'll go there and talk to everybody. Everybody gets a book. That's how I'm pouring into people.
Okay.
Sometimes we don't realize it. We say we're teaching a class, but what are you really doing?
Right. Yeah, I have that problem too. Not accepting the things that you're doing positive sometimes.
It goes beyond that. It goes beyond me standing here talking. I'm actually pouring into the people and trying to teach the people what to look for, how to keep their rates low. Mm-hmm. That's a big one, and how they're being calculated.
Mm. So tell us a little bit of how you became an insurance agent. You said your father came from construction. So how did it lead you here?
Prayer. I asked the Lord for a job where I could be myself and where I could be honest with people. And I am a teacher and I am an advocate for people. And that is the way that I approach this business. As we just said, I'm a salesman. That's what somebody would call me, but I'm a counselor, and that's what I put on my website. I'm an insurance counselor.
Okay. All right. Well, who are some of the people that have helped you in this business, and what kind of impact did they have on creating Keystar Insurance?
Well, definitely my husband has been a huge support for me. He builds the computers and does a lot of the marketing work behind, in addition to his regular job. But Demetrius Cunningham has been a great mentor to me. He's been in the business for many, 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 many years. But actually, he's always willing to share information. In fact, I called him the other day. Hey, Demetrius, I'm having problems with this underwriter. And he's always got a good direction. Freely. There's no competition. It's a really good relationship. And Vivian Martin, I don't know if you're familiar with her, she's deceased also. But when I first started, she was a real estate agent. She took me out and introduced me to all of the real estate agents. I mean, she did everything that was within her power to help build my business.
That's a good thing. You talk about mentorship.
She was an awesome woman. Yes, she was. Yes, she did.
Well, what are some of your business goals now? Like, what kind of people are you looking to connect with?
Well, people who are willing and who really have a desire to, like I said, to do the best that they can in their finances, to have financial freedom, to get rid of debt, to ensure that they have their systems in order, to ensure that they don't leave debt on their family with the funeral, and to make sure that their legal affairs are in order. I have a policy at this time with a free estate plan. Come on, people, we need that. It's time to stop at leaving everything, and it goes to probate. Things are stuck in probate. The family can't get. Goodness, I meant to bring an article today. Who's it? DMX rapper.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now he was living common law with this woman. I don't know what her name is, but I just read this article a couple of days. I really meant to bring that, but he didn't have his affairs in order. Now she's unable. She's been with him for several years, but she's unable to access the assets that they have built together over all of these years because he did not have those things in place.
Oh, okay. That's not something I heard about.
Prince too. Too.
Yeah, I heard that about
Prince. We forget about that, and we just don't know. Mm-hmm. We don't know. It's not an excuse, Bonita is here for you.
I think I jumped over my first question. What are some of your business goals? I meant to get that answer too.
Well, to get the word out and to help people to overcome these obstacles. And I mean, everything in the Bible says it, you know, that we perish for a lack of knowledge. We all are going to get older. It's inevitable. We have to take care of that. We're all going that way. We are going to die. Mm-hmm. We have to prepare for it. Also, to let people know that life insurance is not just for death. There are lots of non-traditional uses for life insurance these days, where you can enjoy the money now.
Okay.
Take some, back to your question, the type of people that I'm looking for are people who want to learn and who want to do their best to maximize their, as the Bible calls it, their oils. You know, okay. We're all giving assets, we're giving gifts, but we have to maximize them. You have to pour into them. You have to cultivate them.
Well, I want to touch on the life insurance a little bit more a little later, but for right now, let's talk about medical insurance. Medicare, what is Medicare for someone who doesn't understand it?
Medicare is for individuals 65 and older, or people, younger people who are on SSI, who have some sort of disability, and the government pays a portion of the medical bills.
Okay. So who's a good candidate? So you said who's a good candidate? Your SSI recipients, your older folks. Has Medicare changed since the pandemic at all?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just in general, what they'll pay for as far as face-to-face visits, that was diminished. Yes. That was really heartbreaking. So I have a lot of ladies who come in and they can't see their husbands. They're in the hospital and can't go see your kids. I never thought that I would see anything like that in this lifetime, but
I've heard of that too. There's a few sad stories like that out there.
There's also a decline in ambulatory care, meaning for home health care, except for those really extreme cases. But the problem is that the aides and the nurses, they have to go home, and who knows what they're bringing back. And a lot of times that's beknownst to themselves, that says there are people, I'm sure you've heard, that are carriers and just don't know. So that was a really sticky situation. Seems to be getting better. I'm hoping that we can continue to move in that direction and keep a cap on the number of occurrences.
Yeah,
Other
I agree.
thing is telemedicine. That became a big thing. In fact, then that's something that we offer here at Keystar Insurance. I've always thought that was a great idea. It's like, why do I have to go to the doctor, especially for something that infections, ear infections, you have sinus infections. This is not your first one. You know what it feels like before it gets started.
Right.
When I have that first sneeze, it's like, here we go. You know what I mean?
Right. And you can get
go in the doctor's office. So that's awesome to be able to pick up the phone and just call and say, hey, I've got these symptoms. And they're able, you can talk to this doctor, just like you and I are talking face to face. And he can call in prescriptions for you so that you're not subjecting yourself or other people by going into the doctor's offices. Right. It really became a big thing. So you can log on to www.keystarinsurance.com and get your policy. It's very inexpensive, and it goes for the entire household. That goes for the kids as well.
And you do nationwide? You can service nationwide, or?
For that, yes, but other things, no. That's state by state. It depends on where they are.
Okay. That's a good qualifier.
Definitely all of Ohio, but I am expanding. Things are opening up, especially being as though people have become more comfortable with doing business over the internet. Before that was an absolute no-no. That's one thing that's definitely changed, somewhat for the better. As a result, from the pandemic.
Yeah, that's true.
Because there were some older people that just weren't coming near the computer, but they have become more comfortable.
Well, things change. We have to adapt.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to say, as moving along to auto insurance, that's one that affects all of us at some point. What are some common mistakes that people make in purchasing auto insurance?
Going after the price, buying the price.
Price? And in what way? How do you mean?
They come in and they say, how much is it? I don't have enough coverage, or they don't ask about the coverage. It's just how much is it? Just give me the cheapest policy that there is. And they discover when the car is up against the tree.
Oh, my stuff doesn't cover this. Yeah.
Exactly. That's when, or when the tree is on the house, that's when people discover it's like, oh goodness, I don't have this, I don't have that. And I have definitely, we're not exempt. I speak from experience.
Me too. Yeah. You're talking about me too back in the day, because Michigan, that's where I was at when I first started driving. It was a no fault state. And you just had to have no fault insurance, which is like the cheapest. Right. I think they used to have signs on the window, $99 for right. insurance, but just to get you driving, not to protect you.
And there's just all kinds of misconceptions. People say, I got full coverage. They think that means that mechanical breakdowns. No, they're not going to fix your car. This is for accidents, those sorts of things.
Talk about the deductible too. That was another thing that just popped in my head, because that's another way that people like to skimp and think, oh, I don't want to pay, a higher deductible. Like, what's your take on that?
Well, a deductible is designed to say, I take on this portion of the accident that I caused. So I'm willing to put forth $1,000, which is the average is $500, but it depends on your resources. And you may say, okay, well, I've got $1,000 is nothing to you. So you may increase or your driving record just may be pristine. I haven't caused an accident ever. $1,000, I'm not concerned about that. So I'm willing to carry that $1,000 deductible to decrease my premium. I'm saying I'm taking on that responsibility. I'm not going to leave it all on the insurance company. I am going to take responsibility for this portion of the accident that I caused.
Mm-hmm. And so that helps to lower the price too, doesn't it? As far as when
Absolutely.
You take a higher deductible.
Absolutely. But like I said, depending on your driving record, and there's a few things to put in there, not just for price. Now, if you have an accident every other year, then you might not want to do that, unless you just have $1,000, $10,000 in the bank. If you can afford to just, if you can part with it, exactly, then absolutely, okay. It's a very good idea.
Okay.
In that case. Now, one thing that we did, as far as one big problem is that people think that it's okay, my car is older, maybe I should not get full coverage. Okay. Again, if you cannot afford to go out and buy another car, then you should probably have full coverage on that car. What it's going to do is replace the car, regardless of how old it is. This is the transportation that I have.
Right.
Willing to catch the bus, then you need.
Right. And then thinking on amenities and like in case my car goes down, having something in the policy to afford you a rental or something to replace it if you got to keep it moving.
Right. Now, if you have more than one vehicle, then that's something that you can bypass that. You can bypass the rental reimbursement. That's not something I need. I have another car. Now, because, we have two cars between ourselves, my husband and myself. We don't share well, not with the car.
Well, what other questions?
Different places is what I'm getting at.
Oh, well, what other questions should a person ask their insurance rep before buying an auto policy?
Well, definitely the deductible is one. Uninsured and underinsured motorists is also important. That will cover you. If somebody hits you, they're at fault and they don't have enough coverage. There's a whole lot of people out there without insurance and with state minimum insurance, which is just $25,000 and for the whole accident. So if you have 6 people in your car or two, the accident at state minimum will only pay $25,000.
That's it.
Which is not a lot.
Right. Especially when you start talking medical and things of that nature.
Well, that is definitely for medical.
Okay.
I made a mistake there. That's 25 per person. Is 50,000 for the whole accident. That has changed. That has increased since I've been selling insurance. stand corrected, that's 50,000 for the whole accident, but that's still nothing split between several people in an automobile. Like you said, when we start talking about medical bills, x-rays and
Right. Yeah, don't get started with that. That's a whole list of things that's going to cost you.
And another thing, and this is something again from personal experience. My husband had a car accident, and he has great insurance with his job, but they don't want to pay for a car accident. Or your employer does not want to pay for your car accident. They feel that they are not responsible for it. Whoever hit you should be paying this. So that's where your uninsured and underinsured motorist kicks in.
Okay.
We had to do that, absolutely. So our policy kicked in until we were able to determine who was at fault for the accident. He was actually in a pileup. So there were several cars involved. They had to go back and do the investigation and so forth and say, okay, car B is the one that actually hit you and who is responsible for this. But meanwhile, we go to emergency, they're looking for medical. Medical, we're getting real deep in the
yeah, I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna move on to life insurance.
That's where your medical gets you started. Now those are low amounts, 2,000, 5,000, but that gets you started. Because when you first go to emergency, you had a car accident, they want to know how are we going to get paid. We know that your employer isn't going to want to pay us. Do you have medical? And then the uninsured, underinsured motorists, if you have further damages, that's where that kicks in.
Right.
So
yeah, it's good we're talking about the good stuff at this point, because this is stuff that affects all of us, any kind of thing like that. Let's talk a little bit more about.
We just don't know. And these things, but it is a contract that's written in legal terms. We just need somebody who can and who's willing to not sell us prices, who teaches. I do this with everybody that comes through. Everybody, every customer, I can't say they retain it, but they definitely
hear it at least. They're going to hear it from you. Okay.
Some things we learn, it just makes us familiar, but not necessarily a master of it until we really bury that thing in our brains. Just like school, we go to school, you get a license, that makes you familiar until you start applying. Right. Application is one thing and passing the test is the other.
Right. I agree. Life insurance. Now, has there been an increase in life insurance sales since the pandemic?
A lot of calls, especially when a scare comes along. When a scare comes along, a family member has this or that. There's a term for it. I cannot think of it either. When people are afraid that something is going to happen and then they come forth with it. But there are restrictions as far as binding insurance policies now for people who are positive for a period of time. Yes. Okay.
So is there if you've been diagnosed with like COVID, for instance, or anything like that, is there some sort of
delay? Could be. See, all of these things vary from company to company. That's what makes company A better or in our brains anyway, or more applicable to our individual situations, is those little nuances. After a while, people kind of board on, you know what I mean? They kind of get on board. Okay, well, Nationwide's been doing this accident forgiveness for some time. We need to jump on board with that. So the industry eventually dictates what's going on, but somebody has to pioneer.
Okay. Now, tell us about the cost of life insurance policies and how are they determined?
That is determined first and foremost by age. Smoking is a huge factor. Men always pay more than women. And definitely the cost of coverage. How much coverage? The amount of coverage, the amount of coverage.
Okay.
And so your illnesses, age, smokers, gender, and amount of insurance.
Alcohol or anything like that?
No, not unless you've been diagnosed as an alcoholic, but other than that, no.
Okay. Now, is it possible to gift someone or give someone an insurance policy, a life insurance policy?
You can be the payer on a policy for someone. If they are over the age of 18, you have to have their permission. You can't just go and insure somebody
Okay.
without their permission. But I think we need to do that too. We definitely need to do that. Ladies, if you are dependent on this man for financial assistance, or if you're responsible for him in any way, if something happens to him and everybody's going to be looking at you when it all comes down to it, you need to have coverage on them. That goes for caregivers. That goes for mothers and their sons. You know your son out in the streets, you need to handle it. That's just what it is.
I didn't even think about that, but yeah, that's true.
Well, yes.
That's true.
His son need to sign on the dotted line. And you know what I mean? It's a fact of life. Thing is not that you're wishing something upon them or that you're expecting them to pass. Hope, God forbid, that somebody's killed. But the younger you are, the less expensive it is, and you're locked in regardless of what health issues that come along later in life. So if you start a policy for your grandson, and let's say he's 5 years old, you're paying $500 a year for him, which is a hefty policy for a 5-year-old. When he's 102 years old, he's still going to pay that $500 unless he increases the face amount.
Okay. And then that's something that he can, we're talking about full term life insurance, like whole life insurance versus term.
Correct.
Okay. Before we leave life insurance, maybe explain what that is, the difference between those two for folks, between term and whole life.
Well, term, as it says, term, it's a term of time. Okay, it covers an individual for a term of time. Now, your children are riders on your policy. More than likely, it would be a term policy until they're 18 or so. It can't be converted into a whole life policy. But that is an inexpensive way for a woman or a family to cover their children.
Okay. Okay. And
as riders, that is.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit about bonding, insurance bonding. I'm a little bit familiar with it.
Question a little bit. You asked. I said I skipped on your question. I got whole life. Whole life.
Oh, you're right. I did skip it. Please go ahead.
Yes, whole life lasts for the whole life.
Oh, okay. And I think you can borrow from whole life, can't you?
Correct. There is a cash value associated with it. Now that goes back to our finances, where I spoke earlier about using it in non-traditional ways to fund your life, to create liquidity. There is a strategy. It's known as continuous banking, where you can get a life insurance policy and use the cash value on it for everyday life.
Okay. So, but you can only do that with whole life and not a term policy. Correct.
And it's a special whole life policy, I believe.
Do you offer that through Keystar Insurance?
Okay.
Okay. Well, that's something to take note of for those who are listening.
I put that on. I don't know if we and that's for somebody who it's a budgeting system. Mm-hmm. It's a budgeting system. There are different things that we can do to create freedom, whereas we're not worried about life as we get older. Okay, there's annuities, of course. Now an annuity creates, you can say, I would like to have $3,000 per month guaranteed. Mm-hmm. That's an annuity.
Okay, they do that a lot when it comes to lottery winners. I think that's how I heard the term a lot. When people win the lottery, they get an annuity where they, instead of taking the full amount, you can get X amount of dollars per month. So it's something like that with insurance. Okay.
Yeah, with an annuity, correct. Now there are different ones. Some you pay taxes before, some you pay after, all of those types of things. But that's a good one. But the continuous banking goes a little deeper than that. It creates money for today, and you continue to grow money. There are 3 phases, okay? There's a protection phase, the savings phase, and the growth phase. And all 3 of those phases of money, that is, all 3 of those phases are addressed with the infinite banking.
Okay.
The continuous banking, there's several names for it. But that is for somebody who is a lot more active with their policy. was active with their finances. It is an actual strategy to where you become literally, you create your own bank and you go to this bank for your money. Instead of going to the bank and paying them interest, you go to your bank, your policy, and take your own money. So now you're not paying interest. That's money that you're keeping in your pocket, and you pay off your bills from it. And you take the money that you have been paying on those bills and redirect it back to your bank, and you grow interest on top of that which you have deposited.
Okay.
So it's continuous banking, continuous infinite money.
I think my time's getting away from me. Let's talk a little bit about bonding. We got a couple more things before we head out. Bonding. What does it mean to bond, and who needs that?
To bond, it secures your work. It says that if you do a job for the city, they may require that you have a bond to ensure that your work is done within the allotted amount of time and done properly, of course. And there's different types of bonds. There's dishonesty bonds to make sure that cleaning companies, that no one is stealing. Sororities and fraternities have them to make sure and that nobody is stealing. I mean, it happens in any situation, any business, churches are business, that people are handling money and handling funds. It's generally a good idea that they have something like that in place, just in case. We just don't know. They're not terribly expensive, but it's a good thing to have. You would have to prosecute that individual, but it's a good thing. The money would be replaced.
If you could ballpark it, how much does it typically cost to get someone bonded?
That's a
tough question.
It depends on how big the bond is, how long they've been in business.
Okay.
There's a whole
so there's
lot
a lot of factors.
There's a lot of factors. I mean, it can go from as low as 25 to 2,500. If you are the bank and you're building a bridge for the city, they want to make sure that that bridge is going to be completed in a certain amount of time. Otherwise, you're costing them money because you're cutting off the flow of traffic.
Okay. Before we go, you had mentioned to me ahead of time that you wanted to talk a little bit about your company's primary focus. I wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of speak on that now and elaborate.
What we just spoke about as far as the estate plans, it's the financial planning. Okay. I hate to call it retirement planning because retirement is now. Right. You want to live your best now. Depend now when you're starting, but I think retirement kind of puts it out of the brains of us who are still working, in the 30 and 40 somethings who are working. As I said, you still want to save, you still need to grow and protect your money. And that doesn't have a cap on it. There's no age cap on that.
Right, that's true.
Retirement is a misleading word, I guess.
I know. It seems like everybody, when I was coming up, retirement, saving for that, it was like, just live for right now, work. Think about, and retirement was when you actually got to have fun. If you live that long, that's when you got to have fun. That's when you got to be relaxed and everything. And people now are trying to enjoy their lives a little bit more in the moment, and still with an eye toward, I want to have something reserved for my future when I'm not as active.
Well, yes, it is. Your future is now. That's a matter of budgeting. It's the ability to sacrifice for the long haul and not necessarily 10 years down. Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Well,
I think what's wrong is living beyond their means.
Yeah. I like that. I don't like living beyond my means, because that's one of those things it comes back to haunt you. Congratulations on your success with your company. For one, if someone's considering getting into the business, into Keystar Insurance or insurance in general, what advice would you give them?
To choose a good company, for one, a company that is going to train them. That is the most important thing. A company that is going to pour into your development. A lot of companies now are just picking individuals, whoever. There's a certain amount of people connected to us that will do business. your family, your mom's friends and family, the church, but after that, where are you going to get customers from? Right. And a lot of companies, they just take you in just to get that inner circle, just to get that group of people, and you're expendable after that.
I have a lot to say on that, but I'm not going to say it. I don't like that attitude is all I'll say. That attitude of just give me the money. It bugs me when it comes to that type of thing.
People are hung up on that you can be in business for yourself. The one time I dislike as CEO, I really don't like that word. I don't know. And it's titles. People just get so caught up on titles. But like we said earlier, that's how we started this call. What are you doing? Mm-hmm. Title doesn't mean that you can be busy, but it still doesn't mean that you're doing anything, that you're effective, that you're helping the people.
It comes right back around to mentorship.
Get away from that. Yes.
How are you helping one person to lift the person behind them, and so on and so forth?
Correct.
Okay. You said you were looking to expand your team. If someone's interested in joining Keystar Insurance, what do they need to do?
They need to contact us at area code 330-423-0220.
All right. Well, thank you. I really appreciate you spending a little bit of time with me this morning and let me pick your brain and answer some questions and stuff like that. Thank you. Really, I do appreciate it. You give me a lot to think about.
You too can get counseling at Keystar Insurance.
Well, thank you. Even from Virginia? So not for every product, but for some things, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Well, thank you again. Once again, this is Team Woods Podcast, and we've been with Mrs. Bonita Starkey from Keystar Insurance. Thank you so much for your time.
You reach us and check us out at www.keystarinsurance.com.
That's it. All right. Take care. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.